Hi Sagittarius, welcome to your November 2020 Astro Forecast. It's Raina here. So as a fellow Sagittarian, I am more invested in this particular sign, I guess, having it as my sun sign. Also, if you know your rising sign, you can listen for that. I rarely say this is for both the sun and the rising sign of Sagittarius. In some cases, the rising sign is going to be more accurate because it's going to deal with the day-to-day mundane events much more so because it's based on the time you're born. So the time that you entered this world is how we determine the natal chart. And so that's why I think when I read other astrologers' responses to the question, should I pay more attention to my natal or my solar chart, they will say natal. The solar chart can be helpful as well, though, and shouldn't be discounted. So if you're listening for your sun sign, it can be very helpful, especially when you're looking at what you want to accomplish. I think that can be very helpful. Obviously, this is going to be a general forecast. If you'd like a personalized reading based on your natal chart that is much more specific to you, and that in some cases can include your natal placements and looking at what those suggest for your career path, your talents, your relationships, you can check out the link below because I have different types of readings. But I'm not going to do the thing where I talk about the different degrees because it doesn't flow as well for me. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. So as the month of November unfolds, we have the sun in Scorpio already, that kind of, very fierce, mysterious energy that is perfect for Halloween, let's put it that way. And for Sag, this is our 12th house. So that makes it even more, kind of like spooky, because the 12th house is past lives. And so it's a water house. Scorpio rules the 8th house. So I guess you could say the 8th house should be the spooky one, right? But the 12th house is a hermit house, the house of contemplation, the house of self-undoing. So when people have transits through the 12th house, depending on their spiritual development, I think it can affect them differently. And people who are more comfortable with the totality of who they are will breeze right through. Maybe it won't be perfect, but if a person is not familiar with or doesn't often look at their motives, spend a lot of time alone, if they're kind of like living on the surface of life, these kinds of transits can be unnerving because they're almost forced to. Maybe the universe orchestrates it so that other people that they would normally call upon are not as readily available. And so they are forced to be alone, and some people don't like to be alone. And I think those are the types of people who don't like to look at themselves, who aren't comfortable with their shadow. If you're not comfortable in solitude, then it means that you're not really comfortable with yourself. And I don't know, Sag is a yang sign. It's a masculine sign. So Sag is supposed to be very extroverted. I don't know about you, but I'm not extroverted in the classic sense of the word. I prefer to be alone. Yeah, I have a partner and I enjoy being with him, but I can very easily be alone. And I'm sure some of you are the same way because you are deep thinkers and you probably love to read if you're the typical Sag. So it all aligns with somebody that is comfortable in their own skin. And so we have the sun in that 12th house, and that actually lends a positive note to 12th house. It can make you, I think, be quite resourceful when it comes to how to deal with karmic issues that arise. Maybe these are highlighted. Maybe you become more aware of them at this time when the sun is shining a light on them. It's important to note that Mercury went retrograde in this house, and in the 12th house, like as I record this, Mercury hasn't even gone retrograde. It goes retrograde on, I believe it's the 13th of October. I could be off by a day. But so that means that it's already in that house as I record this. And I do feel when Mercury is in the 12th house, whether it's in my natal or my solar chart, that it's like this psychic hit where I feel this sense of the past where I can't put my finger on it. I'll look at something and it will unearth this memory that I can feel I experienced, but not be able to fully pinpoint it. And so it creates strange feelings of deja vu. It also, Mercury in the 12th house is very imaginative, but not very practical and not good at expressing itself in a very linear sort of way. So that can be something that comes up. And then Mercury goes direct on the 3rd in Libra. So it actually goes back a sign over, which is compatible to Sag because it forms a sextile, 25 degrees of Libra in the 11th house. The 11th house of hopes and wishes. So, how I interpret this is that there may be something going on with Sag. Maybe you've had a dream that you've had to defer. This is the year of deferment, isn't it? The year of hurry up and wait. I mean, actually not hurry up, just wait. And that, I think like when things like this happen that are so unexpected, we start to question life itself. We start to say, can we put any faith into our dreams, into our goals? The 11th house can be your long-range goals because we never know. And yes, I mean, it's true that we never know what's going to ultimately happen. But life is temporary. The physical life is temporary anyway. And so whether we can guarantee everything or not, it still doesn't mean that we don't have dreams and that we should just get rid of them because maybe they won't come true. So these kinds of things can be going through your mind where, you're more aware of the spiritual connection. There can be a very intuitive connection when Mercury is in the 12th house, and then when it goes direct in the 11th house, it's more conscious about your dreams and your goals. It's also, Mercury direct in the 11th house can be great for reaching out to friends that you haven't been speaking to and getting back in touch with people. Perhaps you did that briefly and then we're in your own world or something like that. On the 10th, so a week later, Mercury goes back into Scorpio, back into that 12th house, back into the place. This is the house of dreams, talking about nighttime dreams. And that can mean that this can give an active dream life, but how it relates to the way that you think about things. I'm not one of those people that tends to dream a lot, but I do go through periods where I can tell I'm dreaming, frequently. And so I'm sure there's some kind of like reason for that, some psychic activity. And this might be that psychic activity. Just don't expect to have this sense of being able to communicate who you are, what you're about in a very cogent way, because that's not what this placement is for. It's great to take advantage of it if you're a creative person, because you can really draw upon, the Akashic records even. When I think of some of these novelists who write so many books, who are so prolific, and there was one, I can't think of his name, but he was into historic fiction. And I thought to myself, he's probably accessing the Akashic records, the records of the history of mankind from a cosmic level, of all the actions of humankind. And tapping into that and being able to, fictionalize or maybe even talk about real events that without even having to research. I don't know. It just seems like people that are that prolific are using automatic writing or something. They're like channeling. So, on the 13th, actually, this is a great placement for automatic writing when Mercury's in the 12th house. On the 13th, Mars stations direct at 15 degrees of Aries. So this is that 5th house, and this is a house of creativity. Maybe you have felt frustrated and had writer's block. Some kind of, and isn't that interesting that it's only within a week of Mercury being direct in that 12th house. So that may have a direct impact on Sagittarius that are writers, but any kind of creative endeavor can be more physically demonstrated now, rather than feeling like your hands are tied. The 5th house is also romantic relationships. Maybe you have been dating somebody and you had to curtail it for some reason, and that felt frustrating, and now you're able to pursue it. And same with the sport. If some sport like was canceled, or just something you were not able to participate, now you can. Competition. On the 15th, we have the new moon at 23 degrees of Scorpio in that 12th house. So it could be something that is a new spiritual practice that you're undertaking, any kind of new spiritual center that you're visiting. 12th house is maybe just attitudinal, where you are developing a new spiritual belief system for yourself. Way to look at life at a higher level. On the 21st, we have two major transits, the Venus going into Scorpio, into that 12th house, and the Sun going into our sign. So the Sun going into our sign is the solar return, although the true solar return is when the Sun goes into the degree of the exact degree of your sun sign. So you would have to look at an ephemeris for that because it may not be on your exact birthday. It might be a day before it or after it. And but this can be considered the solar return in a general sense, and that should even give you more physical energy because when the sun is in the 12th house, the sun is our vitality, and it becomes diminished in the 12th. But I don't want to make the 12th house seem like a bad, you know, place for it to reside. It's just that it's not shining brightly there because it's obscured by what the 12th house represents. And so now it's in the first house. You can kind of like feel that sense. It's like your body is the first house. Your body may feel revitalized. So it can be something along those lines. And on the 28th, Neptune turns direct at 22 degrees of Pisces. So for Sag, this Neptune retrograde, this Neptune retrograde is occurring in the fourth house. It has been occurring in the fourth house for Sag. The fourth house is the house of home and family. And Neptune is an idealistic yet sometimes deceptive influence. So in the fourth house, when Neptune went retrograde back in June, it might have revealed in the past several months the reality of a situation, and it may have been a bit disappointing. You may have felt like disillusioned with your home environment for some reason. Now, hopefully, you haven't recently bought a property because this would indicate finding out things that were hidden about it, like it has termites or there's somebody next door with a dog that barks 24/7, and when you bought the house, they just happen not to be out there. I'm using that one because that would be my worst nightmare. So, something along those lines may have transpired. But now that Neptune is direct, the reality check is over, and you can focus on the higher octave of Neptune being, I think they said Venus is the higher octave. Something like that. Something connected with Venus. Or is that the higher octave of Pisces? I'm trying to think about that because Venus is exalted in Pisces. I don't know. There was some connection between Venus and Neptune. And that means that would be like a level of harmony that is at a very high level. So that would actually be very cool if that were the case. But in any case, this can speak to you being able to feel more, I would call it positive or inspired about where you live and things of that nature. That doesn't mean sticking your head in the sand, though. But I also wanted to talk about this transit because Sag is a mutable sign like Pisces, and it forms a square with Pisces. So this can have a very frustrating, squares are frustrating aspect, where Sag feels like they're butting heads with illusion and have been since 2011. And for me, this is a dead hit on my sun. So depending on what your degree is of sun or rising Sag, if it's in the, I don't know what the orb is, the degree difference. It might be 10 degrees. I mean, it might be like if you're, between 12, if you're like as far back as 12 degrees of Sag, that you would be affected by the square. I don't know. But what happens is that we are, when we have this square, when we're squaring off to Neptune, we may feel like we don't know who we are. And that can be, sometimes, having a square from the sun to Neptune can be kind of nice because it can feel like we are, letting go of the need for these egoic identifications. Even though it can feel uncomfortable and it can chafe or, create irritation, which the square can do, it can still lead to growth on some level. But also, like, let's say your rising sign is Sag and this is squaring off from the fourth house. You may feel like this, like, let's say you're somebody that wants to start a family, but as a typical Sag, you feel that you're going to lose that sense of freedom. It may rub you the wrong way that you're in this dilemma, but it may cause you to really focus on it and, put attention on this dilemma and eventually, come up with a solution that is agreeable to you. And who knows, if you decide to have a child, that could be the best thing that ever happened to you. And you had to take that leap of faith. And, having that kind of friction caused you to really address the issue. And then on the 30th, we have a lunar eclipse in the opposite sign of Gemini, 8 degrees. So this is falling in the 7th house of committed partnership. And I will say that for many, because it is at an early degree, that it will actually be falling in the 6th house of your work. But if you work for yourself, the 6th or the 7th house works because the 7th house can be clients. So I think this can actually be a very positive thing where it can be like a deluge of opportunity that may have been held up for some reason. We had a Venus retrograde through this house, which may have even been like a money shortage or kind of like a restriction for a few weeks. And that may have thrown everything off balance. And now this is kind of like getting your, having your vibrational escrow come in. Can you tell I was listening to Abraham Hicks recently? And having everything flood in right on time. I'm currently doing a series as I record this in the second week of October on the green light portal, which I see as mid-November through the end of January of 2021. And so this November period, the second half, can be that time when you start to see that everything is getting back up to speed. And speaking of which, on the 20th, it's so funny because, the 30th, we have this lunar eclipse here. The lunar eclipse in the 7th house can be a time of, if you have a relationship that's on its last legs, this could be the coup de grace. But you know something? This might be the universe helping you out, helping a sister out or a brother. because perhaps you've been clinging to a relationship that really is not a good one. And these eclipses, it's like nothing can stop this runaway train from happening. But when you look back, you will likely say that was a good thing that happened. I couldn't see it in that moment. I couldn't personally do anything about it. It's almost like grace that you're able to, let go because you're forced to. And so an example would be you're unhappy with your relationship, but you can't find it within yourself to just walk away from it. And the other person decides to walk away. And, the typical human response is to say, hey, wait a minute. I'm the one that's supposed to be doing this, especially if you feel like that other person was being the jerk in the relationship. Maybe they were the cheater and they're the one that is supposed to beg for forgiveness. And they decide to go off. And yet, you were going to do so anyway, and you didn't do it. So thank God that the universe has allowed that person to be the one who rejects you, and then you don't have to be the bad guy. And you can let them be the one who made that decision. Even though you wouldn't have been a bad guy leaving a relationship where the other person cheated. That's absurd, but you know what I mean. It's like you can rest assured that you tried to make it work, and they're the one that actually, let go of the relationship, and then you can feel like it's a clean break. So anyway, that's what I have for you, Sag. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you would like to work with me, I would love to work with you. I specialize, I would say, in natal chart interpretations, and also relationship readings are things that I really enjoy doing, and I feel that with natal chart interpretations, looking at the actual natal chart is something that I really feel passionate about. But I also have readings where, they're combined with the transits, important transits of the coming year. And you can check all of that out below. I have a current special of the natal chart plus full-length natal chart and full-length tarot readings for a special price. You could call it an introductory price, so that you can get the best of both worlds, if you will. It's called The Whole Enchilada, and you can see more about that reading and my other types of readings at the link below. Thank you for listening. Take care. Bye.